What's up, everyone? This is Tyler Dunn at golongtd.com and right on Substack. If you'd like to subscribe, $8 a month, $50 a year. We are completely powered by you, our readers, our listeners, our viewers. No ads, no VC money, no corporate overlords. I greatly treasure our independence, and it's only possible thanks to you. So we've been going since November 2020. Thank you so much for making that possible. All right, we're going to continue these YouTube clips. I just figured, you know what? We've got a lot going on at the site. If you'd like to check those stories out, head on over, read, subscribe, and we'll kind of tease the stuff here at the Go Long TD YouTube channel. Monday morning, I had a column on the Buffalo Bills. Where do they go from here? They won the game. They're 4-2, right? 14-9. Make no apologies. Get the win. Get out. As Go Long Show co-host Jim Monas loves to say, I completely agree. Nobody's going to remember that game as, oh, they really should have lost because of X, Y, and Z. They're just going to remember that they won the game. That's what matters. That being said, if the Buffalo Bills play like that, they're not getting to the playoffs. And if they do, it's one and done. That's obvious. That's not being a cynic. It's not even being a skeptic. There was a lot of horrendous football played against a team, and give the Giants credit. They played their asses off for Brian Daboll. That is exactly the kind of stuff that Joe Schoen talked about in our interview for a story ahead of the season. Check that out on Joe Schoen's upbringing, how it kind of connects to this past offseason, how he's trying to lead the New York Giants. He wants guys who are going to blast through that adversity, such as staring down the barrel of 1-5 as 15-point underdogs. They played hard. You got to give the Giants credit. That being said, I mean, their injuries were apocalyptic offensively. I mean, to have Justin Pugh starting, as he said in his introduction, straight off the couch, then he moves out to left tackle that he hasn't played since 2019. The dude was just selling real estate and running a podcast. Now he's on Sunday Night Football against the Buffalo Bills. The Giants are in a bad place with their injuries. Tyrod Taylor at quarterback. Defensively, they've been shellacked at times this year. They played hard. It just goes to show any game, any Sunday, anything can happen. But man, the Bills are disjointed on offense. It's Allen, it's Diggs, and really nothing else. At least nothing else most of that game. They've got to diversify. They've got to get somebody else involved. And we've said a million times on the podcast that as long as Josh Allen is healthy, as long as Stephon Diggs is healthy, they're a contender. And that is 100% true. But to win games in January, you're going to have to do something else. You're going to have to get something else offensively. And I think the point of this clip here is you've got to feed James Cook. You've got to feed Latavius Murray. Run the ball. That's not an archaic caveman take either. Nobody here is saying to turn the clock back to 1995 and get a Thurman Thomas, Derek Holmes, Tim Tyndale rotation going. No, you could let Josh Allen be Josh Allen, which, by the way, for all the talk about telling Allen not to take chances, don't force the ball, step out of bounds, slide, all the insane attempts to sanitize his game over the offseason, how did they win this game? Josh Allen threading the freaking needle to Quentin Morris, right? A throw that I'm sure Sean McDermott does not want his quarterback attempting. That's what won you the game as the Buffalo Bills. That throw right there. So he can still be himself. He can still throw the ball to Stephon Diggs a lot. But when things aren't working and you're having these 3-and-outs and it's clunky and Ken Dorsey isn't really figuring out how to call the game, get a feel for the game, and a team like the Giants and undermanned teams getting momentum, hand the ball off to James Cook, 4.8 a carry. Latavius Murray looks dang good. He's been the same numbingly consistent running back his entire career. Look, I mean, even Patrick Mahomes with the Kansas City Chiefs has needed a running game to win his 2 Super Bowls and to get to 3 Super Bowls. You know, Damian Williams was such a key along their Super Bowl run in 2019. Big plays against the San Francisco 49ers in the Super Bowl down in Miami. And even a couple of years ago, I mean, Isaiah Pacheco runs like his life depends on it. Every time he has the ball, they need that right now. I mean, their offense is disjointed too. They don't look like the same old Chiefs by any means, by any stretch of the imagination. but they've got Pacheco. And Andy Reid adjusts, right? This time of year is the perfect time of year to find a running game because you're going to need it. You're going to need it in the playoffs when you're facing the Cincinnati Bengals at home in a blizzard. And you can't just snap your fingers and all of a sudden magically get a running game. It doesn't happen like that. You're not just going to suddenly become this new football team capable of the elements. You've got to have it. You need to have done it at some point during the season. So what better time to do it than right now against an inferior team like the Giants, against an inferior team like the New England Patriots now coming up. Then you've got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on Thursday night. Use these next two games as a chance to just pound away with the run. Allen's fine. Diggs is fine. Gabe Davis is fine. You've got Deontay Hardy. You've got Trent Sherfield. You're going to get Dalton Kincaid back. You have Dawson Knox. There should be no concerns with the passing game. But as several players have told me, and you heard from one of them, Isaiah McKenzie, on the Isaiah McKenzie show that we had the last couple of years, and then the happy hour this offseason. Frankly, this is an offense that's kind of built to play in a dome. They've built this team around Josh Allen that's really made to win indoors. So it's no fault of their own when they get to some of these playoff games and you can't find that running game. It's going to take a concerted effort out of the coaching staff to find this identity, to impose your will against these worst teams and just run the ball down their throat. Obviously, they did it in the second half, the Bills. They were able to just get something going. They went right down the field with Cook, with Murray. They've got that capability. Ask any offensive lineman as well if they prefer to pass set and backpedal when you've got this 265-pound dude with 9% body fat who runs a 4.5. Do you want to do that, or do you want to, pin and pull and run it down people's throats? This has been a finesse football team. We won't use the word soft here, I promise. It's been a finesse football team at critical junctures of the season. We've seen it year in and year out. You can be both. You can be an explosive offense with Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs, and you can be a team that knows how to put your foot on a team's throat and run the ball. What a great opportunity right now to do that. With good backs, with a good offensive line, they proved they were able to take it to the Giants. And look, they escaped with the win. I'm sure you've seen this stat. It's crazy. This is from Opta Stats. The Giants are the only team in the Super Bowl era to total more rushing yards, more passing yards, fewer interceptions thrown, fewer fumbles lost, and fewer missed field goals than their opponent, and still lose the game. Before this game, teams were 134-0, checking all of those boxes. So they're unbelievably lucky to win this game when Tyrod Taylor is changing that play to a run at the 1-yard line. They don't even get a field goal there. And then obviously the end of the game, if they do get that field goal, then they just kick a field goal and they win. But also on top of that, they call the pass, which I think was the right call. They were getting stuffed on third ones, as Brian Daboll mentioned. They had the right play call, right? Little play action, little pop pass over the top to big Darren Waller. He was held his whole route. Sometimes they call it, sometimes they don't. They sure as hell called it in the Super Bowl. They didn't there. My point being, the Bills were lucky as hell to win this game, but they won it. And I think the lesson that they learn, and this is the big thing, right? Sean McDermott said in the locker room to his team after the game, and Josh Allen alluded to it, you've got to take lessons, because if you don't, then what's the definition of insanity, right? Doing the same thing again and again and expecting different results. Look, they don't need to become this old school ground and pound Rex Ryan team, but you do need to do both still in the NFL. And I tell you what I'm not going to do. I'm not going to blame Brandon Beane. I think Brandon Beane has given this team the necessary personnel. Zach Moss, I believe, still ranks second in the NFL in rushing. Now, Jonathan Taylor is back, so that's going to change, but the Bills drafted him. Devin Singletary's fine, but it was kind of hit or miss with how much they wanted to use him, when they wanted to use him. We had the story on Nyheim Hines, who they traded for Zach Moss mid last season. That's just a bad break. They're not expecting a jet ski accident. And James Cook is a second-round pick. They've invested into these players. Maybe they don't necessarily trust James Cook in some pass pro situations, and that's why he's not out there all the time. You would hope a year and a half into his career that light bulb does kind of go off. You don't know unless you put him out there in those situations. So feed him, use Latavius Murray. They were flirting with Leonard Fournette. Jordan Schultz had the report that if they were going to have another injury to the practice squad, or I believe it's Ty Johnson, if they were going to lose him, that they were going to bring in Leonard Fournette. So they're active. My point being, Bean is active. They're looking for ways to improve this running game. And they did it in free agency. They drafted Osiris Torrance, who's been good at guard. I think the personnel is there for, if not a total shift, a tweak, a midseason, a dalliance with the run game could go a long way for the Buffalo Bills. And I think that's how they get through this tough stretch. Every team does it. You know, for those who think we were a little too hard on the Buffalo Bills after a win, and by saying that they're lost in the woods, I thought that was the perfect headline, because if you're lost in the woods, you can find your way out of the woods, right? Pull up the GPS, figure out where the compass is, north, south, east, west, figure your way out. For them to figure their way out of the woods, run the ball, feed these backs, and then, let Josh Allen be Josh Allen with everything on the line, which is exactly what he did in that second half. So they did kind of figure it out in this game. In this game, they did. And maybe that's the lesson learned. Alrighty. Thank you, everyone, for subscribing to Go Long, golongtd.com, also on Substack. And also, this week is the 1-year anniversary of the Blood and Guts, How Tight Ends Save Football. If you're like me and you're watching football on Sunday and you're getting pissed off by all these flags and then all these fines for routine. I mean, what about Bobby Okereke? Roughing the passer on Josh Allen? As we wrote, I've had dance parties with my 4- and 2-year-old in the basement that were more dangerous than that play. Jordan Poyer, the week before, ridiculous penalty. Really, every game you see, there is a asinine penalty called on the defense. The NFL is chipping away at its soul. They know that we're all going to freak out for a day and then move on to the next shiny object. Well, if you're worried about the future of the sport, pick up Blood and Guts, because right here, this is the position that can save football. The Blood and Guts, How Tight Ends Save Football. It's right there. I spent this past, I guess it was 2 years ago now, hanging out with Mike Ditka, Jeremy Shockey, threw a few drinks back in Miami Beach, which was everything you'd expect with Jeremy Shockey. Tony Gonzalez, Rob Gronkowski, George Kittle, Jackie Smith was unbelievable. Ben Coates. We hung out in Charlotte. I really wanted to kind of make this a cross-country search for the soul of the position. So thank you to everybody who has made a point to read the book, listen to it in audiobook form on Audible or wherever you get your books. It's greatly appreciated. It's everywhere books are sold. Alrighty. Thank you so much. We'll catch you at Go Long very soon.